Welcome to the latest series of Mania here at FinTech Talents Festival, live here in London. I'm your host, Nembang, and I'm pleased to introduce our next guest, Garrett Cassidy. Hey, Garrett.
Great to see you and great to be here.
Great to see you. Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's been a busy couple of days and still a bit left to go.
It certainly has.
Yeah.
Well, we're so happy to have you join us in the Enfuce sauna with us today. So please tell us a little bit about your role and what you do at the company.
Yeah, so I'll maybe give a bit of my background first. I've probably got a couple of parts to my career. I'm a recovered banker, having spent kind of 20 years in the corporate side of banking across tech, product, payments, regulatory. Left about 10, 11 years ago and dove into the fintech space, initially in the crypto space with Circle, and then went down the rabbit hole and built a fintech business, Trezio, where we were focused on financial safety net for gig workers around lending, payments and insurance. Sold the business to Mania and then stayed on for about a year running financial products. And now I'm a non-exec director and advisor, kind of out on my own in a different way. So I'm non-exec director of a European business of a business called Currency out of Hong Kong. They're a cross-border payments business, and then I advise financial services, fintech businesses, and particularly their leaders on product strategy and how to kind of merge innovation, market needs, and challenges, and kind of turn challenges into opportunities.
So you stay busy.
Yeah. I keep busy. Yes.
Amazing. So we're here at FinTech Talents Festival this week as well, and I've seen that you are not only a speaker but for at least 3 different panels.
Yeah. I was obviously, I think Lisa, who's the organizer here, said I was too accommodating. Doing 3 panels. So I did 2 really interesting panels yesterday on the open finance stage.
Yeah, how was that?
They were really good, really focused on, two different focuses. One focused on how we transition from open banking to open finance, the opportunities and the challenges in that, and also then one on how open data and open finance can drive better lending and more inclusive lending. So they were really interesting. And then I have another one later today on the payment stage on open banking payments and how we get open banking payments across the chasm from kind of early adoption where we are now to mainstream adoption, but also the challenges that will bring as well. So that's where I've been, and just enjoying the event as well.
Yeah, amazing. There's some really great insights to walk away from those talks.
Yeah.
And in terms of the main talks that you did yesterday as well, the key insights, what was the biggest ones that you walked away from? There's
probably 2, if I look at the 2 on open finance, the first one was really around quite a lively discussion around commercialization of open banking. There's a lot of discussion around no commercial model, etc., and how do the banks... But actually, there was a very strong pushback that this is the customer's data, and actually that banks need to move away from this thought of having to be able to charge for APIs and think of these as part of their core services that their customers now expect. And Conrad from Alicia Bank would have highlighted the fact that they see it already, that if banks don't provide open bank data into accounting software, SMEs will go elsewhere because it's too hard. So I think that was really important on that one. On the second panel on the lending side, I think there was some really interesting insights from Oak North around how they use data to get to a yes decision. But that was interesting, but also really interesting how they use it on an ongoing basis to monitor customers. And Valentina from Oak North gave a really good analogy of traditional banks do annual credit reviews and it's a bit like the doctor asking all of their 100 patients to come in and looking at every one of them and maybe only 2 or 3 actually have a problem. And wouldn't it be really better if he could focus on the 3 or 4 that really needed help? So they use data on an ongoing basis to identify clients who might be approaching difficulty and need support, and focusing their efforts there rather than kind of scattering it across everyone and doing it once a year. So I think that was really interesting. And I mean, today's one obviously hasn't happened yet, but really looking forward to some, the kind of discussion around how we actually cross that. What are the practical things that are needed to help further open banking kind of account-to-account payments and also some of the challenges, particularly say in the UK, that might bring if it really does take off in terms of scheme capacity and performance and things like that.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's a really key insights too, and hopefully the one later today will go even as smooth as yesterday's did. So of course from your introduction and your broad background in payments and banking and fintech, how do you think partnerships enable innovation by forging connections across the ecosystem?
I suppose we talk a lot about partnership. Partnership has always been essential in financial services and banking. I mean, I've been in banking, 30 years. You were always doing some form of partnership somewhere. I think it's becoming much more visible, but also much more critical as both the world of payments and financial services gets more complex and the customer expectations get higher. It's impossible for any one organization to kind of be on top of all of that. So putting the right partners together in an ecosystem to actually deliver for customers, I think is critical. And I think it's just going to get more and more critical over time. If you're a bank or established financial services player, it's an opportunity to bring innovation in. You're not going to, and I think people are more and more recognizing they can't do it all themselves. But also in fintech, if you're going to build a fintech business, you want to focus on what do you do different, and then how do partners enable you to do that, and deliver your products to customers.
100%, I agree as well. And lastly, what game-changing trends are you seeing and topics at the event so far?
I suppose, there's been a lot of really interesting panels. I think game change is probably a very strong word. A couple of things that came to mind. Lord Holmes gave a opening talk on the Open Finance stage yesterday, and he was really highlighting again how important open finance is for consumers and small businesses and open data. But he was also giving a useful overview of, now that the election is out of the way in the UK, that there is quite a number of legislative pieces happening in the coming weeks to try and enable both open data and open finance, but also some of the crypto asset designations, etc. So that was really interesting. I think another one on the payments side, and again, it's not game changing, but it's a really important insight. We talk a lot about the importance of payments being invisible and consumers not caring about payments because they should be invisible. But actually, if payments aren't done right, they're actually more important than the product. So if you're on your mobile phone downstairs in front of the TV and you're trying to buy something and the site doesn't support Apple Pay or Google Pay, depending on your device, that could mean you got to go upstairs and get your card. Well, actually, maybe you'll just browse off to another site and buy it elsewhere. So I think if we don't think about that invisibility, it's actually, we think about payments not being important, but they're important in a way that actually you got to make them seamless. And if they're not seamless, then they are super important because they block the payment. And I think that's not just, so that's on the merchant side. On the issuer side, if you don't support things like Apple Pay, or maybe it's the appropriate A2A payment, the customer will use a different card, will use a different account to make that payment. Most customers are multi-banked at this stage and they have multiple options. I think COVID showed that people moved banks when Apple Pay wasn't available. I'm from Ireland. Not all the banks supported Apple Pay at the start of COVID, and a lot of people migrated their day-to-day spending to accounts where Apple Pay was supported, and have not migrated back after the fact. So I think that's, and then finally, probably not a payments one, not a payment specific one, but the opening keynote on the festival stage yesterday was Dr. Graham Norris, who's a futurist and an occupational psychologist. Might sound a bit strange, but I think he gave a really, really great insight into how we all exercise our futurist mind to get into the kind of the area of possibility and planning, and how to really just think into the future and get out of the kind of short-term thinking. So it was just completely different, but really insightful, really, really interesting, and kind of lots to take away from.
Yeah, I think that's even more, that's what's great about this conference, I personally think, is not only just catered towards like the fintech and the banking and the payments area, but the future. Yes. So how to stay on top of innovation, like you said, if people aren't keeping up with the likes of, Apple Pay, Google Pay, pretty much all the players have it right now. Yeah. But, if they're not, innovating, we're eyeing up who are the next trailblazers, so those trends are definitely important to stay on top of. And that's what this conference is pretty much allowing us to do, and allows us to have this great conversation too. So, yeah, it's been a real pleasure, though, to have you on board with our Money Mania episode, though. So,
and thank you, Ixa. It was really great.